Kathy, are you ready?
I am ready.
Okay. Chris?
I believe we're going.
3, 2, 1. We're on the air. I will call this regular council meeting to order. Please stand for the pledge. Alan, would you lead us in the pledge, please?
I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You can remain standing for a moment, please. Heavenly Father, we look to you tonight for guidance and wisdom. We also take a moment tonight to remember the following. Over 3,000 folks were killed during the 9/11 attacks. That anniversary is quickly approaching. In our time as these United States of America, we remember the over 600,000 prisoners of war and the 45,000 soldiers still considered missing in action. Next Friday, not this Friday, but next Friday at 6 o'clock, Veterans Green, we will be having a memorial service for POWs and MIAs, sponsored by the American Legion. We've been told we can have it as long as we adhere to the strict mandates, so we will be doing that. So for all these people, let's have a quick moment of silence, please. Lord, bless this country, bless this state, this county, and bless our Pataskala. And we ask for all of this in your holy name. Amen. I'm getting a lot of noise from you, Tim, so...
That might have been because my computer was being scratched around while I stood up there. Hopefully that won't be the case. I won't distract anybody. If you want me to turn my microphone off, I'm happy to do that.
Nope.
Nope,
I think it was the extracurricular sound, and it has since gone away. So, Kathy, roll call, please.
Carter. Here. Walter. Epperson.
Here.
Barstow.
Here.
Hampshire.
Here.
Gaelic.
Here.
Lee.
Here. Okay, we have a quorum present tonight. First on the agenda, citizens' comments, and I do have Brandy from our mayor's court. I just wanted to introduce you to you all. Would you, Scott, would you escort Brandy in real quick, please? Mm-hmm. Thank you. Just a quick prelude, mayor's court has taken off. This young lady is has been a breath of fresh air. The officers are excited about it, and she's already done some fabulous things. Kip is, I think we've had 2 courts already. Correct me if I'm wrong, Tim. I think we've had 2.
Yep, and it's last Thursday was quite well attended. They're back up and running.
Yep.
I think one of the things when you see Brandy or when she gets there, one of the things she brings an energy to the position that she's just done a really great job.
Yep.
So
we're talking about you already. Yeah, you can put your mask down. So everybody, I want you to meet Brandy Taft.
Hello. Nice to meet everybody.
Can you tell us just give us a brief synopsis of your last 2 weeks, because I know you were pumped up, and then you had your first court session, and then your second one. How's it going?
Yeah, I love it. I love it here. I came from Lincoln County Municipal Court, and this has been a great change, and I really enjoy the city and everyone I've met in it, so I'm excited to be here.
Okay. Well, any questions for Brandy? All right. Well, I just want everybody to put a face with the name, and you take mayor's court and go with it, okay?
All right.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thanks. Nice to meet everybody.
Take care. I know we had Tony tonight is he gonna?
We're having some technical difficulties. He says the phone number that we have to call into here is going to voicemail. So I don't know if it's because we already have somebody on the screen, we're having trouble getting them to be able to call in on the call. We'll continue to work on it.
Okay, very
Well,
good.
If he gets through, then maybe we can put him in.
Yep, we can insert him.
Yeah, this is a gentleman who's gonna talk to us about internal control audit from his firm and what they can and can't do. That's the grid that should be on your dais. So he lives in Powell, and the power is out up there, so he can't do very much. He's kind of stuck, so.
Okay, Scott, would you get Mr. Klinger, please? Thank you. Kathy hid some on me. Okay, need your name and address, sir.
Yes, sir.
You,
Can I? Okay. Mayor Mike, my name is Rob Klinger with Shea Commercial Real Estate, and my address is 1130 Mountain View Avenue, and that's Newark, Ohio.
okay,
And I'm here basically to thank you all for the support that we're working with Howard Emsweiler to develop the Pataskala Corporate Park, and I was one of the agents that brought in AEP first. And then now we're working on a couple other projects, but your team here has really impressed me. I've been involved with economic development for 20 years. I was the economic development manager for 10 years, and now I'm in commercial real estate and developing property all over central Ohio. And when I talk about impressive, Mayor Mike, Scott over here, Fulton, Chris Chirac, Tim Hicken, the whole staff has been a delight to work with. And when you bring companies in, that's what they want to see. You know, Geldwin was one of the companies that came in, and Mike Shank was one of the companies that I took them to. And when they got there and met Mike, and Mike had a high regard for the community, it was an easy sale. I didn't have to do anything. And what's nice about working with Scott Fulton and Chris and Tim, you went through a challenge with people coming and going. And you know, BJ King left and so forth, but you stayed consistent, and the message was always there. And I was very, very impressed. So now we're working on the possibility of Mike Shank Racing moving from Etna to the Pataskala Corporate Park and putting up a 40,000 square foot facility and increasing his payroll over a period of time. And I can't thank you enough for the team that you put on the field, because Mike came back 3 times to the Pataskala Corporate Park. And Mike and Mary Beth Shank will be your biggest promoters if you decide on allowing them in your community. And I would just urge you to just enjoy them once they get here. Now, again, I work for Howard Emsweiler, and Park Shade works for Mike Shank. And the closing is scheduled for this Thursday, contingent upon you all providing the CRA. And that's the big thing, because these folks need, he's got an opportunity to go to Speedway, Indiana, and I would hate to see him leave this area to work in Speedway, Indiana, where they want to give him a building, they want to give him abatements, they want to give him all kinds of money, because they want all the race car drivers in Indianapolis. But I'm sorry, I didn't mean to take so much time, but I'll tell you, this guy right here, Scott Fulton, he worked on the Job Ready site when he was at Licking County Planning and helped get it started, you know, and I really appreciate the team you got here. So, you know, no matter what I bring back to this community, I will always be, you know, like I did with AEP, brought them back here 3 times before they decided that this was where they wanted to go. So, if you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to entertain.
go out and get some more.
Hey, thank you very much. I'll work hard for you, sir.
Okay, thank you.
I've got him on.
Thank you.
I've got him on the phone. I can put him on speaker and hold in front of the microphone.
Okay, we'll see what happens.
Tony, you there?
I'm here.
Let's see where I need to hold.
Hear me?
Try again. Is that picking them up?
Is it in the back?
Hold on a second. Okay, try now.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you, but it should be coming out of here. Try again.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Yes, boy, gotta be right on top. Okay, go ahead, Tony.
All right, great. Well, hey, thanks for inviting me, guys, to, I'm sorry I can't be there in person or on video. I think my house is the only neighborhood in Columbus that doesn't have electricity from that storm that we had last night. We're not going to get it back until tomorrow, so I apologize being on the phone here. But I appreciate the opportunity just to present, just the internal controls approach that Jamie, Todd, and I have been talking about the last couple of months. But I think, Jamie, you've sent around the one pager we had on just the business process code. All the councilmen have that in front of them.
Yeah, I put a copy at the dais tonight.
Great. So we've been talking for the last, like I said, couple months in terms of an internal controls approach, and I wanted to walk through everyone just a couple of examples and approaches that we can take and just get your feedback on next steps. But what we have, I think Jamie presented just a one pager that we put together on a particular approach area that we can look at in terms of business process areas, from financial reporting, purchase and payables, revenues, treasury, payroll, fixed assets, and IT controls. And I think what we talked through originally was, really focus on maybe initially on those areas that are more susceptible to fraud. Cash coming in, cash going out, and those would be areas around purchase and payables, revenue receivables. Probably some areas in treasury, and then payroll, and and really get everyone's buy-in that those are the key areas to look at for the first year, and get through that and get a good foundation in place. I know that again, talking with Jamie and Todd, that the city has a pretty strong environment, internal control environment, in terms of what's documented and what the external auditors evaluate every year. And so I think there's a really strong foundation there. One of the things you can do is look at all areas, in the first year, and then, reevaluate. But, if you want to prioritize resources and really get, the bang for the buck, I mean, my advice would be looking at those, 4 key areas in terms of, ensuring that revenue, inflows and outflows of cash are well controlled. So that's the first piece. I guess secondly is, once you determine what business process areas we want to focus on, it's then how deep you want to go, right? So one of the things that we do is kind of a first phase is do what we call a walkthrough or a test of the design of the controls. So we would interview key stakeholders, document the processes, document the controls, and then essentially do a validation of one of the controls or a sample of the controls, to validate the control is actually designed as appropriate. So, I mean, that would tell just, again, are the controls, are they formalized, are they standardized, are people aware of the controls and the policies, procedures, are they documented, is technology utilized? And so we can get through that fairly quickly just in terms of interviews and also providing a perspective on just, best practices, leading practices for those areas. So we do this all the time. So, for example, if we're looking at purchase and payables, we identify that there aren't, controls in place. We'd expect to have the controls in place. We've identified that, and also, any business process improvement opportunities in terms of, want to go deeper, we can certainly, from there, what we call, more operating effectiveness testing, right? So that's, we're comfortable with the design, people understand what the roles and responsibilities are, the segregation of duties, but are the controls as designed, are they operating effectively from a day in and day out basis? So that's when we would, take a deeper dive and collect more samples. So, for example, we may collect samples of 40 or 50, invoices for the proper approval, or, a sample of journal entries to make sure that they, they were approved and documentation is in place. So we can take it as narrow, as deep as, as the committee wants. My recommended approach would be, if you're looking at this business process scope outline, would be, again, I would focus on the kind of the 4 areas that we talked about, cash coming in, cash coming out, doing a walk through those processes and controls, getting those documented. And I know Jamie already has a lot of documentation in place, so that can be leveraged. So I don't think that'd be a heavy lift. But we would do our own independent walkthrough and, give an assessment of that, of the design of the controls. And then again, we can do a deeper dive for those areas and actually test transactions and do data analytics that we can look out for, outliers, payments, or just other analytics that look at, make sure the data looks right. And so, again, my recommendation would be start with those 4 areas, do a walkthrough, and then do some detailed testing of those transactions that give you comfort that the controls are designed and operating effectively. So I'll pause there, and I talked a lot. And anyone have any questions just in terms of the overall scope or approach, or just different ideas?
Anything for Tony?
It appears there's no questions at this time. Is that safe?
Yeah, just to come, I don't know, Tony, I don't know if you can hear me or not.
Can you hear Todd?
A little bit, yeah.
Okay, I'll try to speak up. I think what we'll do is, we may discuss this, we'll let you get back to enjoying your evening without electricity. And, sure, anytime. And I think maybe we just discuss this further, and probably if we have a consensus that this is something we want to go forward with, Jamie or I or both of you will get in touch with you, and then you can come back to us with a proposal, and then we can go from there. But we appreciate you. Under these circumstances, seriously, Tony, coming to us this evening. That's difficult. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you, gentlemen. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Tony.
Thanks, Tony.
Thank you.
All right. Take care.
Bye.
Okay, Scott, we have one more person.
Who's that?
Young lady by the last name, I think, of Swim.
Swim?
Yep.
Swim? Come in around the corner.
Just come up to the mic, and I'll need your name and address, and you'll have 5 minutes to speak.
Okay, so my name is Stephanie Allman. My address is in Beachley Trails. Right now I'm speaking for Pahana Swim Team. Basically what we want to do is we want to put a dome over the Taskula Pool to basically be able to swim all year round. Pahana is willing to put up the dome as well as a heater, and they're willing to pay for it, so the city would not have to pay for anything. The benefits of this, the community can utilize the pool over the winter. That means senior citizens don't have to drive far to swim. They can swim in our pool, which means the city can charge them like we have been doing lap swim. So that can utilize that as well. Our swimmers from our high schools, meaning Watkins as well as Licking Heights, can also utilize this pool. Because right now with COVID going on, we don't have a pool to swim in right now, so it's kind of hard. So our swimmers don't have anything, and as most of you know, chlorine is the best place to be right now because the chlorine kills the virus. So that's where we want to be. We want to be near a pool. So with that in mind, again, that would be a win-win. We have 3 high schools that would be willing to swim there. We can also have swim lessons. Obviously, that would have to be approved by, Licking County Board of Health, but we can offer swim lessons year-round. Again, with the lap swim, we can offer all kinds of things physical-wise for our elders, and we can also charge them. Again, Paul Hanna is willing to pay for a heater to heat the pool, and they're also willing to pay for the dome, which is about $40,000. The city would not have to pay for anything. Obviously, they would have to continue helping out with the chlorine and the acid, and also they were going to have to figure out a way to basically make it so that it's winterized, so that the tanks and the pump room and everything are insulated and insulated well, so that we can actually have chemicals going to the pool, which they would also take care of as well. I do know that they have talked to Lanier Crawford as well as Mr. Hickens over there. There was some things that were talked about, but there's also more people on the team that are willing to help out in that regards to make sure that those things were taken care of. A lot of volunteer work would be done also to make sure that that's taken care of as well. I've done a lot of, research and things like that as far as the negatives and the positives outweigh the negatives, because the city would make money, which is always a win-win, and then the community would have a pool to use all year round. Once the dome is ready to be taken off, we have a place we can store it, so that wouldn't be an issue either. So that's what I'm kind of bringing to the table for everybody.
Well, it's interesting, but I do need, as a contact, I'm going to need your name and address. Okay, that's just not going to, because I don't know how to pronounce your name.
Teresa Fightmaster is the head coach for the Paul Hanna swim team.
Okay.
She had other obligations and couldn't make it here tonight. John Jarvis, the high school swim coach for Watkins, got double booked tonight too. He is also the cross country coach, so he's just a little bit busy. So I came out to speak.
Okay. So you've talked to Lanier, and
yes.
has he addressed it with the park board at all yet, or anything like that?
I do believe he may have brought it up to the park board at his last meeting. That I'm not 100% sure. I brought this to his attention several weeks ago, and like I said, I know he talked to Mr. Hickens as well.
Okay.
But I also told him that we were going to bring this up to you guys to let you know, because it's a great idea.
Sure.
I know that there is some work that needs to be done and involved at the pool, because this has never been done before.
Right.
And I realize
Right.
that. But I also know that if Paul Hanna is willing to flip the bill and it doesn't cost the city that much money or anything at that,
Sure.
I don't see why it can't be a win-win.
Okay. Tim, what do you got for us?
I think Lanier did at least tell the park board that we did have the initial meeting. It was a fun meeting. There was more than just a couple of questions, but there certainly was. I don't know. Can you guys hear that background noise here? Is it messing me up?
We can hear you. We can hear that noise.
Okay. In any case, Lanier did go and say something to the park board, just to brief them that the conversation happened.
Okay.
So they at least know. Stephanie's right. There is a significant concern about winterization of the pipes, and then of course the leak in the pool. whether or not the fall fix for the leak actually fixes it. And also, they were on a significant time crunch, and they needed to know relatively quickly or they were going to lose $16,000. And I couldn't give them that answer quick enough, I didn't think.
Right.
So she hasn't recontacted me to tell me if that was extended or anything. Also, the one side of the pool is pretty close to the fence line, so I don't know if the dome's been designed. Stephanie's right, there's a lot of other questions because the conversation essentially stopped because of the time crunch.
Right.
So there's lots of other questions to ask, but Lanier and I were certainly interested in listening to the proposal. It's just a matter of, what costs would we incur? Hiring somebody to come in and look at it and tell us exactly what that would cost and how far out that takes us on a time frame for something that needs to be done relatively quickly. So,
okay.
If you got the contact information, I think Lanier and I both would still be willing to talk, but we're under the constraints that we're under.
Okay. Well, we thank you for bringing that concept to us. It's a surprise to me, so I'm sure there'll be some discussion on it. So.
Okay.
Thank you. Yep. Okay, you can just give that to Scott is fine. Yep, thank you. All right, introduction, discussion, and approval of consent agenda matters.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Barstow.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Epperson. Discussion and roll.
Carter,
Yes.
Epperson,
Yes.
Barstow,
Yes.
Hampshire,
Yes.
Gaelic,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Okay, consent agenda passes. On the reports, I'll save my stuff for later. Todd, what do you have, sir?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, it's good to be back after over a month off.
Yeah, we missed you.
I want to thank, first of all, I want to thank the folks up at the urgent care center here in town for getting me fixed up and getting my sinus infection cleared up. It was great, even a lot better. Just a few things. Some things I wanted to mention last time, some things not. First of all, I want to extend condolences to Chief Brooks, passing of his father with us last week. Looks like we had a really good turnout at the viewing. That was awesome. But again, our condolences to the chief and his family on that. A couple things about I want to talk about last time. The awesome farmers that we have here who also sell right from their right from the farm. I got to give a shout out to the Waggies on Patterson. They have some great stuff. They're closed now for the season, unfortunately, but next season they have some great stuff. Tomatoes that are awesome and zucchini bread that I think I described as addictive. So if you want to stop by there, they're right on Patterson, right on the city limit, almost to Morse Road. And finally, I want to thank Mrs. Carter for filling in for me at last meeting, and I'm sorry that I made you supervise all the freshmen, but I understand that they were very well behaved, and they never realized that they could have taken over the meeting since they had more votes than you. So I understand that went really well. So thank you much. Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir. Mr. Zetz.
I have nothing tonight. Thank you, Mayor.
Timothy O. Hicken.
Hey, Mr. Mayor, I'll talk about a couple of things. Phase 2 of a Main Street restoration is going to take place this Friday. If you remember that we contracted with Quality Yard and Home to only fix the lawns that were damaged by the Main Street program. Some of that seed didn't take, and Quality has a guarantee, so they're going to come back and they're going to work on reseeding that. Assuming that would be the last part for the lawns, there are 2 driveways that were affected, and that would essentially end any restoration for the Main Street project. The Charter Review Commission rolled on. It's been doing very good work, very quick work. Ms. Triplett, of course, is the chair. They are through chapters 3, 9, 10, and 11. Barb identified some of the more chapters where she got the most comment from people and focused on those first. They will come back in tomorrow. They'll meet in the police station because Planning and Zoning, I think it's Planning and Zoning, is meeting in the chambers there, and they'll continue on. So if anybody wants to check in, I'm happy to give you a synopsis or check in with your representatives. They've all been pretty active, and they've all contributed to the discussion. So it's been a good work. Storms last night. Just want to touch base really quick and say that I got calls from all over the city that they could hear the tornado sirens. So kudos to our public service department, and also pretty glad that most of the bad weather skirted us to the north. But it was nice to hear that various areas of the city, people could hear the sirens. And so finally, after the kind words of Mr. Klingler, we have Meyer-Shank CRA agreement on tonight. It's an ordinance. We're asking to waive the readings for it. It's something that's a culmination of a lot of work. Certainly, Mr. Zetz and Dennis Schwally and Scott and I have all been working on it. And so I think it's a step towards getting somebody in the corporate park. We can have more discussion when we get to that item if necessary. Other than that, I'm happy to answer questions.
Anything for Tim? Yes.
Hey Tim, is Quality replacing the dead trees on Main Street as well?
No, if they are, I don't believe that was part of the lawn restoration contract with Quality. So that doesn't mean that they're not going to do it. When I say no, I guess we know it's not part of that agreement. I think the city does have some tree replacement opportunities. Alan might be more up on that than I. But if this is were the trees killed by the project?
I don't believe so, but I remember texting you some of the newer trees, not involved in what Quality's doing, but I thought they did it. They're on the, I believe the east side. The newer trees, there's 3 or 4 dead. Have you seen them, Brandon?
I've seen them too. They should still be under warranty because we just replaced them last year. We should have at least a year warranty on a new tree. So. Did
Quality do that?
I thought you
Yes.
said they did.
They did.
But I could be wrong.
They did, Tim.
Okay. I will find out for you, Mr. Lee.
Anything else for Tim? All right, thank you, sir. Jamie.
Welcome.
Thank you, Mayor. We have a number of items on the agenda. Second reading of ordinance 2020-4372, which is the update of the employee handbook. My legislative report provided a lot of detail on all the areas that are being updated and revised to primarily get the non-union policies in line with what's in place for the collective bargaining agreements. For first reading, we have ordinance 2020-4371. That's a supplemental that we are going to have 3 readings on. It'll go through the normal process. We picked up an additional 30,000 or so of coronavirus relief funds. Like we got the 60,000 before. This is an additional 30, and so we're just going to need to figure out what projects and expenses we can use that on. Because again, as I said before, I don't want to give any of it back. If we can find a good use for it, we will. In addition to those monies on the supplemental, kudos to the department heads, the directors. We asked them to go into their budget and identify opportunities for expense reductions. And I was very pleased. Everybody did their part, whether through a combination of closing prior year purchase orders, which has the effect of increasing the fund balance and reducing the budget, or actually coming up with actual reductions that they said, okay, you can take this money back. So I was very pleased. They did a great job. So those reductions are in place in the supplemental. Again, that'll go through the full 3 readings. We're not looking for any waiver on that. There are 2 resolutions, 2020-53. This is a annual housekeeping measure. We are required by the Licking County Budget Commission to have a council authorize and approve the rates and amounts. I don't know what would happen if we didn't approve it. I guess we wouldn't collect it. So of course we need to approve it.
And finally, Resolution 2020-54. Those are for broadband service agreements. We currently get our broadband through Keytel as an intermediary. They're stepping out of that role, and so we are going to contract directly with Spectrum for broadband service to our facilities. All these agreements, I think I provided copies with the exhibits. All of those are part of the State of Ohio Master Agreement. So it's state contract for technology services. So nothing unusual there, other than their longer term contracts.
Jamie, while you're on that topic,
Yeah.
Does that eliminate a middleman or add a middleman?
Eliminates. We contract directly with Spectrum.
Okay.
So Keytel has, and I'm sure there was a markup on the service, but they're stepping out of that role. They're just getting rid of that function. So we're going to contract directly, so that we'll have high-speed data at all our facilities. We're contracting and manage those contracts on our own.
Okay.
So
thank you.
Big news, obviously, revenue. Awesome month. I mean, fantastic month. We had been looking at revenues that were down every month, and even in July, which we thought the second half settlement picked up most of all of the postponement of the filing until July 15th, but obviously not, because when August settlement came in, it pretty much brought us back to where we were kind of before. So we're a little bit below on a full year basis the forecast, but right now things are looking promising. So it would appear that, and I confirmed with Rita, because as I told them, I said the last thing I want to do is have you guys come back to me and go, whoops, we gave you Shaker Heights money or something, and we have to pony it up and give it back. So but they confirmed it. In fact, it was. What we have to remember is that a lot of people who do their quarterly estimates, the first quarterly estimate got delayed until July 15th. If they owed money with their return, that got delayed till July 15th. Plus, then you have the second half settlement that was due. I have never seen a forecast turn on a dime like that. These are just extraordinary times. I'm pleased. I'm excited. This is great news. It puts us in a much better place for our 21 through 25 budget and the long-term forecast. We were looking at very, very significant cuts. Tim and the department heads have heard it. If we were staying at that level of income for another year, this was going to be a very ugly budget process. It's still going to be, we have more spending than we have resources, but I think we can present to council a forecast and a budget that will work and get the projects done that you all want to get accomplished. So I'm thrilled. It's a good problem to have that the revenue turned back around. So, and again, I do want to thank the department heads, because they did a great job of responding and rising to the challenge, and it puts us even that much better of a place going into 21. And with that, that's all I have.
So 88 counties and thousands of cities, and you picked Shaker Heights. Any particular reason?
It's out of here. It's an affluent community, and
I'm just teasing you. That's great news. Great news. So, anything for Jamie? Yes.
Well, a couple things, not necessarily a question for Jamie, but just a comment. Jamie and I had a fairly lengthy discussion about this one morning, about where that money was coming from, and then he followed up in the afternoon. However, it's great news. It's better news than we expected. However, my guidance to Jamie and to Tim, and then through them to the department heads is, we're not out of the woods yet.
No.
We still have this virus that we're dealing with. There's an election coming up. We don't know what's going to happen in the aftermath of that. As far as the economy is concerned, it could be a number of different things. So we're just cautiously optimistic at this point. So my guidance to department heads is, we're in better shape, but we're not going to go on a spending spree. We're just going to be careful. So obviously, spending is up to council, but I think that this is good news. But we're just going to continue to be cautious with our spending coming up. And I know that the department heads are going to do that. They did a great job on cutting back on things and deferring things. doing all sorts of good accounting, closing out purchase orders, and things like that help. So I appreciate that.
Very good. Anything else for Jamie?
Our special budget meeting is the
Last
is
Monday?
the 28th. Is that the right date?
28.
28th of September?
Okay, thank you. Mayor, we'll need a proclamation or whatever you do. Thank you.
I'll work with Kathy on
On the
that.
proclamation? Okay, thanks. So, September 28th, I think we picked 6 o'clock. Is that right? It sounds right. We'll get that out. That'll be the budget presentation discussion initial. Thank you. Thanks, guys.
Yep. Anything else for Jamie? All right, thank you, sir. Chris?
Thank you, Mayor. A couple highlights from the report. I do have an update on the WRF upgrade start time. It's been pushed back to some of the other projects that Kirk Brothers is working on. Got delayed from COVID-related issues, and so the start date has been pushed back to October 12th. It's about a month later than originally planned. The contractor still believes that he can complete the project by the finish date. And to do that, he's probably going to bring in a second crew and work on multiple stages at one time on the plant upgrade. But the new start date will be October 12th for that. The department finished its lead and copper sampling, which is an annual requirement for us from the EPA. Once again, which is very typical for us, there was no detectable lead in any samples that we got, and reasonable amounts of copper in our samples, well within the limits. Because of that information, I'm going to request that we be allowed to go to triannual sampling. We've been there before. I've asked for this every year. They say no all the time. It's pretty hard to get them to say you don't have to sample as often as you do. But with our good results, I'm going to try again. So we'll see where that goes.
That's with EPA?
Yes, yes, sir.
And what does it cost when you do it? When you go to?
So we take 20 samples that we have to run through the lab. I don't know what each sample costs, but you've got man hours from us and all the samples at the lab, the fees that the lab charges to get samples. Then you have to go back and notify the residents of what their results are. So it would be 1/3 of whatever it is now if we could get that. So I don't know what the number is yet. I don't want to take anything away from the utility committee report, but we have switched to a new salt provider. We've gone ahead and ordered 2 loads of that salt. None of them have come in yet. The first one comes tomorrow. The second one comes at the end of the week. But just real brief, that has the potential of saving us around $45,000 a year on salt. This provider is 30% cheaper than the current provider that we use. So pretty excited about that. There was a lightning strike on August 28th at our Beechwood Trails water towers. It fried one of the surge protectors that protects the PLC, the main computer component of the SCADA system out there. So we called Dublin Tech. It was a late Friday afternoon. Dublin Tech was out of town. It would be a long time before they could get somebody out to respond. But Southwest Licking actually they have a laptop and a program that allows you to install the programming for this PLC. That's what we were going to have to wait on Dublin Tech to show up with. Dublin Tech emailed us the program, and Southwest Licking, CJ sent Josh Holton over, and they uploaded the programming for us into the PLC, got us back and running again. Instead of what could have been 24 to 30 hours of overtime, we had about an hour and a half. So huge thank you to Southwest Licking, CJ, and Josh Holton for helping us out. So I wanted to make that public. The last thing I have is an update on Sterling Theater air conditioner. The air exchange unit is set. The ductwork inside is nearly finished. They have put holes in the outside of the wall. They've got the ductwork outside probably 2/3 of the way finished. Then they have to tighten everything up and build a drywall soffit around the ductwork in the theater itself. But the expectation is late this week, early next week, should be ready to flip the switch on that air conditioner. So as we get closer and that date gets more firm, I will definitely keep you up to date on any information I get.
Thank you.
Other than that, I have nothing else. Be happy to answer any questions.
Do we have a service with Dublin Tech for emergencies and they couldn't handle it, or am I?
So we have a service with them. Their emergency response is pretty typical for an IT emergency response. What we have instead is manual backup plans. If Dublin Tech couldn't get there on time. The concept was going to be that somebody would manually fill that tower. We have pressure gauges that can let you know when it's full, and then we have an estimated time on how long it takes for that tower to drain, so that person would go home, come back, fill the tower up again, but instead of that, Southwest Licking came over. The laptop and the programming altogether would cost about $5,000, and then some training on how to use it. We don't have that capability. We've got 7 lift stations, they have 43, so it was worth it to them to invest in that equipment, and they came and helped us out. So.
I guess my question is, are we paying for emergency service from Dublin Tech and we didn't get it this time because they were out of town?
No, so we're paying for on-call service.
Okay.
It's not necessarily emergency service like we would have for a water leak.
Okay.
They'll come respond, but it's not a guarantee of 2 hours or anything like that.
So Southwest gave us some equipment.
They brought their equipment over and installed our programming to get our equipment back up and running.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
All right. Anything else for Chris? All right, awesome. Mr. Haynes.
Thank you, Mayor. I just have one item tonight, but it's relatively in-depth, so I'll try and be quick and clear and concise. At the end of it, what I'll be looking for is a little bit of feedback from council on this unique situation that we have. We've talked about this a little bit in the Streets Committee. It has to deal with the Headley's Mill Bridge. It's a twin culvert that's just south of Patterson Road, right where we put the curb in last year. We've had some issues with that because it's a twin culvert. We get some special items with that. We built into the budget for this year to replace it for $90,000. That was based on last year's bridge CIP that I kind of put together last year, but after a little more in-depth looking at it, replacing it with in-kind twin culverts is not an ideal situation, so we were looking at putting a box culvert in there to increase the flow capacity, as well as some other issues, and we've had some flooding there. So after looking at that, it'd be closer to $150,000 for engineering and the construction for the box culvert installed. Given the current budget situation, I was looking at dialing that back to just spending in the vicinity of maybe $10,000 this year to do some repairs to make it last for another 6 to 10 years. And I think it would do that. It's in fair to poor condition, but it'll probably last that long. In the meantime, while I was having some contractors look at this to give me some proposals on that item to make the repairs, the one contractor, Spenco Excavating, came to me and said, well, a gentleman who wishes to remain unnamed publicly would love to see that replaced and would offer up some money to make that happen sooner than later. So I said we were interested in listening to that. So of course we talked about that a little bit at the street committee and needed some more details. So we've since had a meeting with Mr. X, and he would love for this to happen as soon as possible, and is willing to put up in the amount of $30,000 to help us replace this twin culvert and make it a box culvert. I think he's had some flooding issues upstream that factors into this, but it did have some conditions. One of those, he wants it to happen as soon as possible, and the other is that it is contingent on Spenco Excavating doing the work. So that brings a couple issues. One is schedule. We do need to have engineering. And that would take a little bit of time, which Mr. X understands that, and also winter and spring conditions, which he also understands. It's kind of late in the year to start a project like this. That also brings to issue the bidding circumstances. Typically, we would waive bids in an emergency situation. This would be a little bit different scenario than that. I'm not 100% on how that works. My understanding is if council feels it's defendable, that council can decide to waive that. But if somebody wants to correct me on that, that's I'm certainly willing to. It's your prerogative. I'm curious to know.
You following this?
Sort of. So I'll continue. We can come back to that. So the logistics that we would have with this then, one would need to be probably a memorandum of understanding with Mr. X. One for him committing to this donation of $30,000, and then for us to commit to some kind of time schedule. And to use Spenco, I think that would have to be contingent upon a favorable and reasonable pricing from them. And then we would, of course, have some resolutions. So I think one would be an MOU. One would be to start engineering as soon as possible. Once I do have a proposal for that, it was right around $20,000. The construction we estimate to be right around 130, so that brings us back to 150 million. So some rationale with that, like I said, this would last a little bit longer with the current budget situation. I was looking to just do some small repairs to make it last for a little bit longer, build it into the CIP for, again, 6 to 8 years out. However, with the cuts that the significant cuts we've made in the budget this year, as Jamie was talking about in the supplemental, this is an item I did leave in, even after those cuts, for $120,000 for the city, hoping that we'd have the chance to take Mr. X up on this generous offer of $30,000. While times are kind of tight, it seems like a hard thing to pass up when somebody's offering that kind of money to help us out with the project.
How long would the box culvert give us? How many years of service then?
A box culvert will frequently last, I would expect 50 years, if not 80 years out of a box culvert, whereas with a twin culvert like we have there, probably 30 to 40.
Well, you want to discuss that now? First of all, any insight on?
I think we have to really take a good look at the cost of that and I'm not so sure I understand all the details and the ins and outs of that, so we'd have to have I'd have to have a better, deeper conversation with Alan before we decide whether or not this is a project we can go forward on with this plan.
So, yeah, I think
this is the first I've heard of it, and I think we got to really look at those details.
Okay.
And those costs.
I think this is something that would have been more appropriately addressed with the law director outside of a public meeting. I'm not trying to keep things from the public, but there's some details here that we need to discuss. So that the law director needs to weigh in on and get some more information.
I better start there first.
Yeah, I think that
if I might, Mayor.
Go ahead, Tim.
I cut out right in the middle of Alan's presentation, and I didn't know. Alan, did you discuss the concept of an MOU?
Yes.
Okay. I think that I totally agree with the concept of taking it through Brian. That was going to be our next step. I think I didn't want to go through and start doing a bunch of work with Brian if council's feeling right off the bat was absolutely not. He's definitely our next step. There's that meeting that Brian talked about with Alan and probably myself. So I agree with that.
Yeah, the big question of bidding and accepting money and that stuff, we got to start with Brian, but a great idea. So.
No,
yeah.
No,
I know. Yeah.
I think it has a lot of promise,
sure.
And that's a road that always needs a lot of attention. So Alan, don't take it the wrong way. It's just that this might have been just procedurally.
Duly noted. Just the time is of the essence on this one, so that is I think a limited time frame. So
yeah, I mean yes and no. I mean we're not going to start a project now. It's going to be winter here pretty soon. I think we'd be able to get this rolling that quickly.
If we had a winter like last year, it's possible, but
but we can't count on it. And then
very true.
I'm not so sure that donors can remain anonymous. Can they, Brian?
Well, they wouldn't be able to because at some point we have to
right.
cut the city a check,
right.
and that would be a public record. So
it didn't want to be broadcast publicly. Obviously, we would know, and we do know.
Right.
I don't know how that works exactly, but for the time being.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, the MOU would have his name in it, and the check would have his all those things. Okay.
But
he knows that.
Okay.
But you seem enthusiastic, like you could do it this year.
I think we could get the ball rolling pretty quickly. I think we do have the money left in the budget after all the cuts that we've already made from the service department. And if we had a good winter, it's possible.
And a box culvert we're not talking a span bridge or anything, are we? We're talking something that's relatively small.
It's two 72-inch culverts that would be combined into one box culvert. So it's a fairly large box culvert. So it would have to be fabricated yet and such. But yeah, it's reasonable, but not like a bridge.
Okay. So,
yeah, sounds like a good way to go if we can get all the parts put together. Yeah.
Anything else?
That is all I have.
Anything for Alan tonight? All right, very good. I'm still loving Mill Street. Go
Well,
ahead.
no, I was going to bring up Mill Street. So
Oh.
there were a lot of comments on Mill Street. Hopefully Mr. Hicken has prepared you for this question.
No, we didn't.
Okay, so the question is, why do some streets, Mink, for example, have blacktop only, and other streets such as Mill have the chip seal or the, as the final?
You didn't read my 100 responses to all the residents? Okay. Go ahead, Alan.
So Mink is a little bit different of a situation than the others, I would say, because Mink was a funded project through, Morrissey had some in that, ODOT had some in that, and they typically do 2 layers of asphalt. On most of our repaving streets, we'll do 1 layer of asphalt, and then on the more rural streets, Mill Street obviously stopped at the bridge once it becomes more urban. We go with the chip seal as a second coat that is a little bit cheaper than a second coat of asphalt and seals up that surface really nicely and helps the pavement that we did put down last longer.
And what kind of success have we had historically with using chip seal in the city? I think Headley's Mill, we just talked about Headley's Mill. That was real. We did some of that on
Havens Corners,
Havens
Summit,
Corners, Summit.
Cable.
Cable.
Very good success. I was going to say Havens and Summit very well. I think both of those were 2014 or 2015 projects. We'll actually looking to potentially strike those so we can do the center lines this year and probably do another chip seal in 2 to 3 years. But that seems to last pretty well.
Okay. Thank you.
In fact, if we hadn't had the water line go through, I think Summit would be in a lot better condition. Yes, you know, when I tell people that when they start complaining about Mill and I tell them to go, they don't even realize that Havens Corners and Summit and Headley Mill are chip seal because the process now is almost blacktop. So.
And I think some of those concerns came before it was swept. We got to leave it for a day or two to let everything cure out before it gets swept off. And I think since it's swept, you get a lot less of that chip bouncing out upon cars.
Yep. Good stuff. Anything else for Alan? All right, thank you, sir. Scott.
Thank you, Mayor. An update on the Summit Road TIF. We had a conference call with Mr. Schwally last week in regards to how we would go about TIFing Summit Road. Based upon our conversation, it became very clear that our initial focus should be on the intersection of Summit and Broad Street. So we're currently identifying parcels to be included with that so we can take the next steps forward with establishing that TIF. Also, the property at 11034 Broad Street, that's the northeast corner of Columbia and Broad. I believe it was an old carryout. We did receive a complaint about that. Mr. Blake has been out and inspected the property. We have notified the property owner that they're in violation of the unstate structures portion of the code and multiple sections of the distressed property section of the code. So courtesy letters went out last week, so they will be due violation letters this week, so hopefully we can get something resolved with that one. Aside from that, happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. It's an eyesore really, and then there's all those cars parked there and stuff like that, things like that.
And we've had trash dumped there too.
Right,
And
right.
It's an eyesore. So
Look, Columbia and Broad, right?
Correct.
keep cleaning them up. Pataskal Square and this one. And yeah,
Right.
let's keep going.
Scott, what's going on with Pataskal Square?
They are due in Mayor's Court
17th.
the 17th, Thursday the 17th. During my conversation with the property owner, I said one thing you can do to help yourself is to work on an abatement plan. This came, about a month ago is when the time ran out of their previous abatement plan. But to this date, I have not heard back from the property owner regarding that, so it sounds like this will be flushed out in Mayor's Court on the 17th.
Right, again, it's just another problem. What's going on with the parking lot at the apartment complex on Oak Meadow that has the giant crater right out there by the street?
I spoke with Mr. Blake today, and he says it was fixed.
Okay, I'll go by it sometime and look. 'Cause the last time I was there, it was a few days ago. It had not.
It had not been
It
fixed?
had not been fixed.
I'll follow with Mr. Blake on that.
Okay, maybe they got out and maybe they did it. I don't know. Okay.
Very good.
Don't take my word for it. You know.
All right, Lanier.
Thank you, Mayor. Sorry for being late. I had to wrap up the first session for soccer, our fall season. So first thing on my items that I would like to discuss is our pool season is now complete as of Monday. You know, for a very short season running from July 3rd all the way until yesterday, we had pool revenue at $14,645. To give you all the expenses and things like that, I want to wait and give you that comprehensive report until October. That way we can get the pool fixed. We can actually figure out what our electric bills will be and utility and all the other utilities, so I can wrap it all so I can give you a full summary. But I did want to give you that revenue amount. I do know we are, of course, negative, but overall we had good support this summer. A lot of returners, a lot of people raved about having, I guess, the pool open, having the, I guess, social distance space, actually having the pool somewhat to themselves at times, but I still consider it a success, and I'm hoping that we can continue to move forward. September 23rd, we have it scheduled, the leak scheduled to be fixed, so that's a 2-day process. Starting probably Wednesday or Thursday, I'll begin the process of draining the pool. We'll be prepping areas within the pool to begin painting, some areas that are chipped. So we'll do our, I guess, preventative maintenance work that we can do, and then American Leak Detection will come out on the 23rd to complete their work. We're hoping that they knock out every place that is leaking at this time. But that's my pool report. Foundation Park aggregate path, we are making headway with that one. The path and also the bidding process, we're hoping to open those bids up on October 22nd. We're hoping to have the resolution to award the contract to you the first meeting in November. So we will have some numbers October 22nd, so you guys will be able to let us know if we can move forward with that project or contract after that time. That also goes along with our car park, the NatureWorks grant there. We're going to be putting those out at the same time. So once again, you'll have car park and the aggregate path coming to you at the same time and being bid out at the same time. Liberty Park, that's our park currently being complete now. The final step is the shelter house. You wouldn't believe the grass is coming in nice, it's already good. The path is being used daily. We were out there, what's today, Tuesday? We were out there yesterday. There were quite a few families out fishing and also just in the woods playing on the playground components. The playground components are complete at this time, so kids can actually go and play. Big kudos to the streets department, Jason and a couple of his guys. They've been helping myself and my guys out with some trucking. We end up trucking a lot of mulch over to that park to complete the trail piece of it within the woods. But overall, that park is coming along, and we're hoping to have it complete within a month. Once the shelter arrives, Mid-States Recreation will be the ones installing that prefab structure, and then the project will be complete for everybody to use. But for now, they can use the playground, and they can also use the pathway, so pretty good. And aside from that, I'm open to any questions.
Just so you know, the young lady came in tonight to talk about the dome,
Okay.
which I don't think any of us except Tim knew. So that conversation has started. So just
Okay.
so anything for Lanier? All right, thank you, sir. Chief Brooks.
Thank you, Mayor. On the agenda tonight, we have a resolution 2020-055. It's to increase our staffing level by 1 patrol officer. The funding source for that position would be the 2 unfilled part-time positions. They haven't been filled at all this year. And that's all I have. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Also, my condolences, my friend.
Thank you.
Anything for Bruce? Yes.
Chief, we had a pretty bad accident at Watkins and Broad, maybe about a week ago. I think it was early in the morning. So nice job on the officers. Looked like they had out there. Maybe it was bad. It was the sheriff's department was there. I think the state patrol was there. West Licking Fire was out. So, but it was pretty bad. But kudos to the guys who worked together, and it was very safe. It was a lane block. It was safe getting through. It was busy time of the morning. So, but not a nice job. How's things on the department? in terms of morale? There's a lot of negative things going on right now in not in our community, but in society. How's everything on the department?
As you can imagine, it's a tough time to be a police
Sure.
officer, and we discuss that a lot. But you know, people are they're good right now.
Okay, they're doing okay?
Yeah.
All right, a lot of challenges.
Yeah, a lot of
COVID,
challenges.
a lot of negativity. Whatever. Okay. I'm not talking about here. I'm talking about.
Yeah, elsewhere you're right. There's a lot, but you know, we have a great community here,
Mhm.
and there's a lot of support behind our guys,
Good.
and you know, we get calls and emails and things
Good.
almost on a daily basis. So
Okay.
you know, that helps a lot.
That's good to hear.
Yeah.
Last thing, did the mayor share with you the video from the incident at the Blessing Box in Kroger? Have you had a chance to see that?
I haven't.
Okay. No? You'll show it to him? Okay, yeah. Nothing serious, but he'll show it to you.
Okay.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, I think, you know, Bruce mentions, and it's easy to say, you know, the community is behind us, but they actually, I've had, in the last 3 weeks, I've had people call me and they say, when's the best, like tomorrow night, first shift and second shift overlap. There's a lady that's buying the department pizza.
Mm-hmm.
And this has happened 2 or 3 times in the last couple of weeks, and we just set it up with Capuanos, and we make sure all the guys are there, and then one of the officers goes and picks it up. It's already paid for, and they get to. And there's always, you go over there, and the main table is always full of homemade cookies and stuff. So the community is behind us.
I wasn't suggesting that they weren't.
Right.
We're talking about the.
Right. But it's easy to say, yeah, we're doing great, and the community's behind it. They are behind us. So, not to say they're not, but there's proof out there that it's happening. So,
Very good. Thanks.
So and we got a little something. Probably we'll introduce at the next meeting that you and I are working on. That'll be another boost of morale
Okay.
for the
Good.
city and the department. So
Very good.
don't want to let the cat out of the bag yet.
Okay.
Thank you,
Mayor.
Bruce. Anything for Bruce?
I got something, Mr. Brown.
Yes.
I wanted to give kudos to Officer Justice. We had another rash of wiggling door handles and breaking into cars in the neighborhood last week, and she was very professional and was out very quick and followed up the next day with other neighbors that realized that they had issues as well with their cars. Also, was there any more follow-up on that large firework and or detonation in town a little while ago?
Yes, we actually, we don't have anyone ID'd, but we have a vehicle description. Turns out it's like an older black pickup truck, and there's some type of device in the back. And I think the reason it's so hard to find is these knuckleheads go to different places around the city to let it off.
That's always been Bruce's nice word for, you know, it's
That's a
knuckleheads.
technical term. Yeah, I know exactly what he's talking about. Yeah. Knucklehead.
So you said a dark pickup, like
Yes.
any other description? Keep a
2 younger white males in it, and you know, we have some people that are on the lookout for them. Some cameras have been adjusted, so hopefully before too much longer, we'll be able to ID them.
Fantastic. That's all I have. Thank you.
The famous boom might be over. Okay. Anything else for Bruce? All right. Thank you, sir. Any committee chair reports tonight? Yes, sir.
Well, first of all, finance committee. We did do a separate finance committee for Tony's presentation, but I'm just looking for the sense of council on. He presented and made some suggestions. I don't know. It'd be a good time to have a discussion. People have had a chance to think about it a little bit. Where council wants to go with this. This is a charter requirement that we have some sort of internal control check, which is in addition to our audits. So I'm looking for some guidance on council or from council on where we want to go with this. Anybody have any thoughts?
I think
Mrs. Carter.
it's the first time we've come across somebody who might be able to meet the need for that particular requirement. So I think it's not a bad idea that we move forward with it.
Okay, thanks, Mr. Carter. Anybody else?
No, I agree.
Mr. Jefferson?
And I like his recommendation of starting obviously with money's in, money's out.
Yeah, and Mr. Nicholson and I were really impressed with their firm and the way they approach things, very professional and very, very quick to respond. So, yeah, we're enthusiastic about them and they come highly recommended. So, anybody else have any Any thoughts? Okay, what we'll do is then, we'll get with Tony and his folks, and we'll come back with a concrete proposal. He'll get that, of course. They do this a lot. They work with cities and government all the time, so, thanks. The other thing, thank you, Mr. Wright, to have a utility report. It's a little bit on the fly because, Chairman didn't tell me he wasn't going to be here. Mr. Schrock, Mr. Everson can help me out a little bit if I forget something. We did have a utility committee meeting on August 24th. As Chris talked about, we have changed salt providers. This is a better price, I believe, and I think a higher quality of salt. This is salt for our water department. It's not for Allen to spread on the roads. I think that is, Chris, is that working out okay so far?
Yeah, so far it's been good. They have good references. Like I said, that we ordered it, same wait time as our previous supplier. We're just waiting to see what shows up tomorrow.
And this is something that I think we have determined we don't necessarily need to bid because of the way it's structured. I think Chris talked to Mr. Zetz about that. The way it's structured, we don't have to bid this. So okay, thanks. There is a provision in the next item, and there's a provision in the Ohio Revised Code that allows the cities through probably an ordinance or other type of legislation to waive water costs for use by other city functions. So obviously for us it would be the pool. So I think that's something that's going to come back, and Mr. Hick can jump in on this. I think that's something that's going to come back for discussion to see, when you're talking about getting the final costs. Chris is going to track what the water costs, the water department costs were over there. So I think we may see some legislation later on in the year that would address that. But we do have the ability to waive those costs if council decides that that's appropriate. The biosolids Tim?
Absolutely. Not only that, but I would also add that Chris's concerns usually are with giving absolution on stuff like that. We would need to pledge as a city to make sure we're moving forward with fixing leaks at the pool. But other than that, you're absolutely right.
Right. Yeah. There's a number of moving parts on this, and so Lanier and Chris have talked about them. So next item is the biosolids program, my favorite city program. I think we're looking at sort of restructuring the contract for that. Is that correct, Chris?
Yes, sir.
My recollection.
Yes, sir.
Is that right, Dustin? Okay. To sort of lower the cost, there have been some changes in the way that is done. So, Chris, are you planning on coming back to us with a resolution or something?
So the current contract runs through March of next year, so it'll be early next year
okay.
To extend
that's
contract.
right. Yeah. Okay. So look for that sometime next year, early. The other big thing we talked about is the interconnect between Southwest Licking and us. This is an interconnect to provide water to Jefferson Township, which is the eastern Franklin County, Gahanna area. They can't produce enough water so all the rich people who live there can water their lawns. That's my take on it. The country club can't keep up. So this would be a sale from us to Southwest Licking because we don't directly connect with them. And so it would be us selling to Southwest Licking and then Southwest Licking actually being the actual seller to Jefferson Township. We have excess water, we can do it. I think Mr. Epperson did a calculation during the meeting. It would a fairly nice return for us. But for the four of us who've been on council and gone through the Southwest Licking contract, you're going to get 4 raised eyebrows. So we'll just see where that goes. It's under discussion. I had a lengthy discussion outside of the meeting with Rob Platt about it. He contacted me and I said, hey, bring us a proposal, bring us something. But Rob, just understand, there's 4 of us who've been through that process. So we'll just see where that goes. Just as a further aside, and as I told Rob, it's been on a committee report, sorry, Mr. Mayor, but I just talked to Rob about this. We had a very lengthy, probably talked for the better part of an hour. I said, look, the city of Pataskala, our utility department is in the business of providing service to our customers. Southwest Licking has historically, maybe not right now, but has historically been in the business of expanding to make money from selling water and getting new sources of water. So we have two different government agencies that have competing philosophies. So we'll just see where it goes. But that was a very interesting utility committee meeting, lots of different topics. So thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank Chris.
Yes, sir.
Justin, you anything
that's
else?
great.
Is that anything? No? Okay, great. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, some great information. Thank you. Sorry I missed that meeting. Any other committee chair reports or information that needs to be passed on? Yes, sir.
Yeah, development committee met, oh, Mel, what's that been, a week and a half ago? Sorry, I don't have the date. We're gonna meet again next week as well. We finally got to the map. You guys all saw my email. If there's anything regarding chapter 4 that you would like us to discuss, please have that discussed tomorrow by the end of business hours.
It would be Thursday into business.
Yeah, I think we meet Monday. Don't we meet Monday?
We do.
Yeah.
Monday at 4:30.
Monday at 4:30. Sorry, everything's running together. So if you could get that to him, but hopefully once we get through chapter 4, we're moving along pretty good. So we've had some really good meetings. Switching gears real quick to fire board, I just wanted to let council know that we have acquired some property off Taylor Road. Currently we have Station 404 over there. It's in a strip mall, being rented. So that's going to allow us, we're in the very, very beginning stages of it, but it's going to allow us to put a fire station over there that is ours and a little bit bigger. Maybe we can add apparatus. I haven't got that far yet, but I think it's a good thing for the west side over there. And hopefully that'll progress along. And I don't have a date or anything, but I would think that by this time next year you'd see that thing moving along pretty good. So I think that's real good news because we've been having a hard time finding property over there and getting out of that strip mall. So
Stop paying rent. Right.
Stop paying rent. So if nobody has any questions for me, that's it.
Anything for Tommy on fire board? Okay, thank you for your service on that board, sir. Anything else? Yes.
This is related to Facebook comments that have been coming in. I just want to, just two things. First one, the Y is not planning an indoor pool. The proposal is for an entity, this is just a proposal for an entity to put a covering over, a temporary covering over the pool. Our pool, the city's pool, and so they can be used indoors during the cold weather, and then it would be removed for summertime, hotter weather. So there's the Y isn't, as far as I know, isn't planning on building an indoor pool. And secondly, this is to Alan. We've had some comments on Bells Warner Boulevard over on the far west side about paving that. I'm not expecting you to have an answer, but just so you know, there's some folks who are interested in. I've been on that street and it is pretty rough. So one of our residential streets over on the west side. So FYI.
I'm hoping to talk about that at the next streets committee meeting. We've got some intermediate stuff planned and looking at when we can get that on the schedule for paving. Hopefully the next couple of years.
Okay. Good, yeah. Okay, thanks. Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Just as I see those comments.
Keep them up to date. Yep.
So, thanks. And I thank our citizens and watchers for commenting, so we know what people are thinking. It's good. Thanks.
Very good. All right. Unfinished business. That one is tabled. Ordinance 2020-4372 for a second reading.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Barstow.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Epperson. Kathy, when you're ready. Second reading.
Ordinance 2020-4372, this is the second reading, an ordinance to amend the employee handbook and policy manual for public employees of the city of Pataskla.
Discussion? Okay, on the resolutions, under old business 047 is remaining tabled. We'll have that information by next time, right, Lanier?
You will.
Okay, very good. On a new business, ordinance 2020-4370 for a first reading.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Barstow.
Second.
Seconded by Mrs. Carter. Kathy, when you're ready, first reading.
Ordinance 2020-4370, this is the first reading, an ordinance to approve current replacement pages to the Pataskla Codified Ordinances.
Discussion? Okay, ordinance 2020-4373 for our first reading.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Barstow,
Second.
seconded by Mrs. Carter. Kathy, when you're ready, first reading.
Ordinance 2020-4373, this is the first reading, an ordinance to make supplemental appropriations for current expenses and other expenditures during the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2020.
Discussion? Okay, ordinance 2020-4374 for our first reading.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Barstow,
Second.
seconded by Mrs. Carter. Kathy, when you're ready, first reading.
Ordinance 2020-4374, this is the first reading, an ordinance approving and authorizing the city administrator to execute a community reinvestment area tax exemption agreement with Meyer Shank Racing Incorporated, thereby authorizing a 15-year tax exemption for 100% of the value of improvements to be constructed on real property within the city and declaring an emergency.
Okay, let's go into the discussion phase. Did you have any prelude to this at all, Tim, or you just want to go into discussion phase?
I'd say move into the discussion phase. I think everybody got a chance to look at it, and if there's questions, we'll see if we can answer them. If not, I think I touched on it briefly at the beginning, and obviously I think everybody knows what we're talking about. So.
Okay. Questions? Discussion?
The only thing that just caused me pause was the understanding the reason why in delaying the 3 readings, but I just don't want to be setting a precedent for anyone else who comes in there and wants to keep things moving at their pace versus letting the system run its course. So that's my only comment.
Okay. Any other comments or discussion?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Mr. Epperson that it's, and I understand this is the first time we've done the CRA, and so there was some delay, reasonable delay, understandable delay in getting everything from our end done, getting things moving, but I just don't like the notion that we have to do this right away. If I can comment on the ordinance itself, I mean, you know, look, I mean, it's pretty well known my feeling on these. Well, there's no way other way to describe it. It's just corporate welfare. Okay, it just is. The company comes in and they can well afford to pay the increased property tax, but they don't. And so what happens is, just so everybody knows, what happens is that their workers, the people who work there, end up paying through their income tax, which is their money, their employers' property tax increase. It's like something out of the Middle Ages. They're sharecropping. I don't know how you want to describe it. I just don't like it. However, because of the way the General Assembly has set this up, that's really the only way we can operate. There really isn't any other way to do this. I don't like these agreements. They're not really good for the city. They're not really good for the people who work for these companies, and they're not really good for other taxpayers. But that's really the only way. It's really the only way we can do it. It's very nice that they want to come in the city. They're going to provide some tax revenue, but not a lot, because it gets exempted. So, you know, welcome aboard. I intend on voting in favor of it, but just want people to know how I feel about it. And the reason I'm voting for it is there's no other way to do it. We've been given, to go back to my earlier discussion about my favorite city program, we've been given a product sandwich, and we just have to eat it, and we just have to wait for the next product sandwich to come along. So that's my rant, and so thank you, Mr. Mayor.
You're fine, sir. Anything? Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Barstow and Mr. Epperson both said exactly how I feel about the entire situation. And I especially have an issue with waiving the readings for the convenience and benefit of the individual trying to come in, only because, like Mr. Epperson said, I don't want to set that precedent. I don't feel like just because we need to meet their timeline for something is a sufficient reason to forego our process. The process is in place for a reason. So, that's all.
Okay, point taken. Anything else?
Well, I would comment, I appreciate that, having sat in those seats. I feel, I know I felt the same way about waiving the readings. Todd touched on, or Mr. Barstow touched on it a little bit. This is the first time for this. It is unique, and we have run into some issues. I don't know if the readings aren't waived, frankly, what the outcome will be. And there's been a lot of work put in on it, so I'm in favor of it. I would not ask that lightly, having sat where you all sit. So far as precedent goes, while I'm here, I think we know the process now, and we can be much more upfront with the people that we're dealing with, and we can tell them, this is how long it's going to take, and add the 3 readings in. I would not, if anybody came to me and said, well, you did it before and I need it done now, I would be happy to tell them that the moving parts were so new to us and so, frankly, sometimes difficult that it took way longer than we knew. And anybody else coming in will have a much better hand at explaining to them exactly what that time frame is going to be. So I don't ask for that lightly. I can assure you, I understand the concern.
That was well said. Thank you. Any other? Yes.
I appreciate that, Tim. Thank you for saying that. And it's for that reason, like Mr. Barstow said, I'm going to be for this. I just felt that the discussion needed to be had in this setting. So, thank you.
Very good. Any other discussion? Yes, sir.
Mr. Mayor, I have a
Mr.
motion. I move that we dispense with 3 readings of ordinance 2020-4374 as required by section 4.04 of the Pataskala Charter.
Got a motion?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Lee. Discussion and roll on the motion to dispense with the readings, with the 3 readings.
And declaring an emergency.
And declaring an emergency.
I'm sorry,
I don't have my.
That's all right.
I
should have that in my head anyway.
Gaelic,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Carter,
No.
Epperson,
Yes.
Barstow,
Yes.
Hampshire,
Yes.
Okay, the motion to dispense with the readings and declaring an emergency is passed. Back to the original ordinance.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Barstow.
I move to adopt ordinance 2020-4374.
Got a motion to adopt?
I'll second.
Seconded by Mrs. Carter. Discussion and roll.
Lee,
Yes.
Carter,
Yes.
Epperson,
Yes.
Barstow,
Yes.
Hampshire,
Yes.
Gaelic,
Yes.
Ordinance passes. On to resolutions. Resolutions 2020-053, resolution accepting the amounts and rates as determined by the Budget Commission and authorizing the necessary tax levies and certifying them to the county auditor.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Barstow.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Epperson. Discussion and roll.
Carter,
Yes.
Epperson,
Yes.
Barstow,
Yes.
Hampshire,
Yes.
Gaelic,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Resolution passes. Resolution 2020-054, resolution authorizing and directing the city administrator to enter into an agreement pursuant to the State of Ohio Master Service Agreement with Charter Communications Holdings, LLC, DBA Spectrum Enterprise, for the provision of broadband internet service to city facilities.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Barstow,
Second.
seconded by Mr. Epperson. Discussion and roll.
Epperson,
Yes.
Barstow,
Yes.
Hampshire,
Yes.
Gaelic,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Carter,
Yes.
Resolution passes. Resolution 2020-055, a resolution increasing the Pataskala Police Department staff by creating and establishing 1 additional full-time patrol officer position.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Barstow,
Second.
seconded by Mrs. Carter. Discussion and roll.
Epperson,
Yes.
Barstow,
Yes.
Hampshire,
Yes.
Gaelic,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Carter,
Yes.
Okay, that passes, and Any motions tonight? And Scott, would you check outside, see if there's anybody poking around, please?
No one's out there.
Okay, thank you. So we'll go roundy round. I'm gonna start real quick because I just had a few things that I'm used to Tim sitting there and Tim's not there, but as I mentioned, the 18th, 6 p.m. Veterans Memorial, we will have a POW MIA celebration, or a memorial, I should say. The trash, one of my hobbies is garage sailing. I love to do that, especially in our own city. I also get to hear what's on residents' minds when I'm garage sailing. And people are still very upset with the trash company leaving the cans in the road, leaving cans in driveways. And I personally have noted twice now, they're supposed to go down one side of the road, pick up the trash, come down the other side, safety-wise. They continue to go side to side with either the truck or the employees to try and speed up, I guess, their process instead of going down one side and up the other. And it is extremely dangerous, especially trucks going on the wrong side of the road is ridiculous, let alone employees trying to dash from one side to the other in front of the truck where the loader is. So if you'll check into that, Tim.
I sure will. I would. I believe I've called before. It helps, and then this isn't a shot. This is just a request. If anybody sees that, and you can give me an exact date and time, it helps more than me just calling and saying, "Hey, I think you guys are doing this." I get a pledge from them to pay attention to that.
Right.
I will say that based on complaints that you're talking about trash cans being left in the middle of driveways, they have actually put cameras on the trucks. And the last complaint I got from an individual that said that the can was in the middle of his driveway, they sent me a movie and showing me that it was placed at the corner. So they're taking it seriously.
Good.
But if the perception is that they're not, or that we have more locations where that is happening, absolutely I can make a call to them. So
Very
just so
good.
you know,
Okay.
they're working on the problem. So am I.
Well, kudos to them for taking that step, and I will narrow it down to addresses and streets next time. So
Anybody,
right.
that goes for everybody, Mayor. Please let me know if you see that happening.
Okay, will do. Our last farmers market was last Friday. Huge success this year. We had more vendors than we've ever had, and of course trying to keep them socially distanced and but asking for volunteers for folks that would have the sanitizer. And of course Jack's Wax gave me like 50 or 60 bottles of sanitizer for not only the vendors but also the people participating. Huge success this year. Filled up the street again and had 3 food vendors this year, which kept everybody downtown also, barbecue, lemonade shakes, and the like. So hats off to Rachel and her crew of volunteers who continue to make the farmers market a success. And thank you, Alan, and the street department for all you do for setup and tear down. So that's officially over. You can go get all the stuff that's down there. So I appreciate it. And I had a gentleman who came to the farmers market every Friday, and he mentioned on his last trip that the bushes in the city parking lot across the street by the railroad tracks, the bushes are so tall that in a small vehicle you cannot see pulling out of the parking lot.
Trying to think where that is.
Well, it'd be across from the Fox's Lock Shop, that parking lot, the city parking lot. has bushes at each entrance that are, in my opinion, overgrown and probably just need to come out. You're never going to get those to the height where they're it's going to be safe for a vehicle pulling in and out of there. So just my 2 cents. Mr. Barstow mentioned his favorite farmers market. Ming Street Market is one of my favorites, and they're going to try to stay open at least 10 months out of the year. So a lot of local tomatoes and corn, and it was a banner year for small farm markets, and you could take a trip and never leave the farm, basically, so it was pretty cool. Speaking of, and also, Alan, for your, you got a pothole on, right before you hit the Columbia Bridge as you're heading towards Mr. Brush's property in the curve. Big pothole before you get onto the bridge, right at the seam. And also the guardrails need trimmed really good at our new at the railroad crossing of Cleveland and Mink. Those brand new guardrails. When you're coming up Cleveland, you cannot see turning onto Mink because of the tall grass on those new guardrails. So
The grass needs trimmed, not the guardrails.
I'm sorry.
I was confused.
The grass needs trimmed around the brand new guardrails.
These are like eco guardrails.
Chia guardrails.
Chia guardrails. Just add water. Thanks. That's all I have. Go ahead, Mr. Everson.
I have nothing, thank you.
Mrs. Carter.
I have nothing.
Want to poke some more fun at me tonight? Come on. Mr. Barstow.
Be nice to Jess Cumbo. She's acquired a new hobby,
yes,
which is high-powered rifle firing. So don't give her a hard way to go.
Yeah, I think she got her CCW. So.
I think she did. Yeah, that was part of it. Yeah, but just
so she's packing.
Be nice to Jess.
Yeah.
That's all I have, Mr. Mayor. Thanks.
Okay, Mr. Gaelic.
Mayor, you stole mine. I wanted to thank Rachel and her team of the farmers market, and they did a great job this year. It's the best I've ever seen. So just want to give a shout out to them, and Alan was pretty cool too.
You know, you couldn't have pets, so one of the young ladies that was sanitizing would hold your pet while you went through. So it had a pet service and a sanitizing service, and then it was crazy, but it was a good one. So yep. Mr. Zetz, got anything?
I do not.
Hey, Jude.
2 things. I've been a scout leader for 15 years, 16 years now, so I've camped out several hundred times outside, and I have never been as cold camping out as I've been in this room tonight. Right here, it's freezing.
Really?
So, just making sure everybody knows that. And
wow. You should have said something earlier.
What would I say?
I'm cold. I got some Carhartts out in the truck. You could have had some.
I generally bring a sweater and a jacket and did not, and then I also wanted to just say that my youngest son is on his final 3 weeks of his Eagle project, and then we will be putting that one's in the history books. So.
Mr. Lee, take us home. Oh, Ms. Lanier, what do you got?
Speaking of Eagle projects, I forgot to mention buildings and grounds. The Gaga pit that we were discussing all year long has officially been constructed at Foundation Park. Only thing that we have to do is remove the excessive, I guess, turf that's left over from the project. But overall, that project is ready. So all the kids who like to play Gaga ball, we now have a Gaga ball pit at Foundation Park from John Reese Parkway.
Is that Diego Benitez?
That is Diego Benitez. He has completed his project. I'm hoping to do I guess, an article for it. I got a lot of information for his road to it. That's a great success, and another amenity within our park that is our biggest park, especially when it's over there by the baseball diamonds. And this year we have 15 total adult co-ed teams, so that's the largest I've ever had. So that side of the park will be booming every Sunday, most likely.
And to bring up that Diego's brother Luke also did a Eagle project in the tax bar at Licking Heights.
Yeah.
Lions Club still going strong with their turkey shoots?
Yeah. Took last week off for a rare change. So,
Take us home, Tommy Lee.
Actually, I have two things tonight, believe it or not. First, I'd like to congratulate my Lions football warriors on the Battle of Broad Street.
You guys needed that win. It took 10 years for you guys to beat us.
It's 2 in a row.
It took 9 years before that.
Since you brought that up with here, I'd like to point out that JV also won. The combined scores between JV and varsity was 77-13.
No, that's awesome.
So I'll take that.
A win is a win.
Because we're combining scores now.
Let's combine from 2008 to
I know,
2020.
I know.
Maybe we should add that up, huh?
I think you'd win that.
I think so.
I think you'd win.
But we didn't win this last one, so I would be worried.
Do we have a ceremony since the sign stays the same? We just leave it the same?
Yes.
We do?
Is there a ceremony? I don't think you have the ceremony, but I think.
Tim Higgins, be quiet. There is no freaking ceremony.
Ouch.
Mrs. Carter's gonna have to polish the Watkins sign.
That was not part of the bet.
I was
We might
asked
have an
because I
opportunity
don't
picture
know.
or something.
Sure.
I don't know the answer to this. I don't think we do the ceremony every time, but I think do we still have them come in, the coach?
Yeah, Tim just said we'll do
Oh, I
a
didn't
picture. We'll do a picture.
Okay.
Yeah,
He asked
Photoshop,
me and I-
photo op. We'll do a photo op. Yeah.
On another note, I just want to take I was going to mention this in my development committee report, but I just didn't think it was the right time because we hadn't had the discussion on the Shank vote there. I want to thank Mr. Hicken and Scott for your guys' work on that, and Chris as well. Being development committee chair, I kind of had a front row, not first row, seat to this whole thing going down, and it was very, very, it was very interesting and telling and a great learning experience for me. But you guys did an awesome job of that, and I know that it was very unique, and I know the conversations we had, and you guys really got that done. But you know, I don't want to be the broken record. But the one thing that it did for me, it just emphasized the desperate need we do need for some economic development direction. Tim, how many hours do you think you put in it?
Like 10 or 15,
Scott,
at least.
All told, probably 40 to 50.
So, I realize that you know, with the COVID and the financial times, we can't do anything right this second. We've talked about this before, but you know, with the numbers getting better, I felt it was important to just mention to council the time that he's putting in and he's putting in that really should be put in by, that they could use elsewhere on other things. And I just hope when the time is right, because I realize it's not now, that we can have a good, solid discussion amongst ourselves and get someone or something in place for economic development. Because this was kind of unique as well. We didn't have to recruit this company; it kind of fell in our lap. And I do know that recruiting is, you know, trying to bring these companies in is a big part of economic development. You didn't even have to put any time in that. So, thankfully. But again, not to sound like a broken record, I just don't want to lose sight of that. And I thought with as much time and effort and kind of landing our first one, it was a good time to bring up what we already know, which is the importance of it. So I'll leave it at that. And
Tim, any other entities, Tim, that along the way from A to Z on this involved?
Well, Dennis Schwally gets some personal thanks. Mr. Zetz gets personal thanks. When you're putting, Scotty obviously put in a bunch of time on this. I said 10 to 15. It may have been 15 to 20. Michael Shank Racing too. I mean, we talked a little bit about the concept of what putting somebody that's first in that park. And I'm grateful that we have somebody in there. I'm grateful that we have people working on our behalf, whether it's whoever it might be. So I'm sure I'm probably leaving somebody out, but it was work, but I thought well worth it personally, and I'll continue to work to make it happen both in that park and any place else in the city if I can, and if we end up with moving a different direction where we have either a contractor or a dedicated hired individual keep working to get a tax base for the city if possible. So my thanks to everybody that worked on it.
All right.
And council for passing.
That's all I have. I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Seconded by Mrs. Carter. Discussion and roll.
Barstow,
Yes.
Hampshire,
Yes.
Ehrlich,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Carter,
Yes.
Epperson.
Yes.
Meeting adjourned.
Don't forget your employee performance evaluations. I have mine done. Yes.